Chevron and US 1. I picked up the Alma Times, stared silently at the headline that caught me by surprise. It read, "Where's the good Lord now?" Said a twister struck some town, and the government is shutting down while the dead is on the rise. I glanced across the highway, and out front of a church was a message board to save the lost, and on it were these words: if you've never prayed to Jesus or called on God at all, poured out your pain, cried your last tear at a Sunday altar call, if you tried to ignore the world but it's gotten to your mind, well, friend, I'd say, ain't it about time? The weight of what I'd read stopped me in my tracks, and suddenly standing there, the truth was crystal clear. Politicians can't agree, and crime and gasoline keep soaring while the war's been fought for 20 years. I took one look at that headline, then looked back at that church sign, shook my head and said, by now you'd think we'd all have seen the light. 'Cause if you've never prayed to Jesus or called on God at all, poured out your pain, cried your last tear at a Sunday altar call, if you tried to ignore the world but it's gotten to your mind, well, friend, I'd say, ain't it about time we lay aside our differences, raise a prayer with humbled hands? I'd say we've tried everything else, why not give love a chance? 'Cause if you've never prayed to Jesus or called on God at all, poured out your pain, cried your last tear at a Sunday altar call, if you tried to ignore the world but it's gotten to your mind, then I'd say, ain't it about time?
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me say hello to who's in here. Country Girl, Tennessee Girl, Ricky, Lane Polston, October Baby, Brainworms, Morning Glories. Welcome, welcome. Okay, this is new to adding pictures up here, so I'm going to give it a try here. All right. Hi, Real Gypsy Soul. So this is Gannon Stauch. Hi, Snark Sister. An adorable little 11-year-old boy who was brutally murdered, allegedly, by his stepmother. Okay. In just a few days, she has court again, and then we will find out when her trial starts. And they are going to try and rush it to get it started because this woman, Letecia, has done everything in her power to prevent the trial from starting. And in my opinion, she is absolutely crazy. Now, this case gripped my heart whenever I first saw it in 2020 because this little boy looks a lot like one of my sons, especially in the one with the picture with his little beanie. And whenever he was reported missing at the time, I was really hoping that he did, get in trouble, get scared, run away, and he would be found. And so did his entire community. But unfortunately, it was all lies, and that wasn't the case at all. So for some of you who don't know anything about the case, I'm going to go over timeline and try to do this quickly because I know Mama T has a live in an hour too, and I don't want to overstep on her live. But I just want to get you caught up because whenever this trial does start, I'm going to cover it. Hey, Bug Love. Yes, I started a little bit early so that way I can get through this before other people go live. Gypsy Soul said, I have trouble cutting up chicken. How does a sane woman cut up a child? I don't know. I mean, when people can do stuff like this, I feel like they have to be possessed. They just have to be. I can't think that any normal person, sane or insane or not, could bring themselves to do something like this. So we'll go over timeline, and then I'll tell you her charges that she's facing, and we'll get prepared for her upcoming trial to start. So on January 27th, 2020, Gannon's stepmom, Letecia, calls to report that Gannon is missing. She told the investigators that Gannon was last seen that afternoon as he left to go to a friend's house. The El Paso County Sheriff's Office labeled Gannon as a runaway child. So she had his family, all of the neighbors, friends, everyone out looking for Gannon. And pretty much she said that he had gotten into some trouble for acting up and had his Nintendo Switch taken away. So he got upset and left. Then later she changed it to, no, he just went over to a friend's house to play. And she took away the fact that he was in any trouble at all. But then she comes back again and says later on that, yeah, he was in trouble. And that driving around the neighborhood to find him in their car probably wasn't a good idea because if he saw their car, he would stay hiding. So on January 29th, News 5 Investigates receives a credible tip from law enforcement alerting us that Gannon was not a runaway child and foul play was suspected. Sources disclosed that Gannon's stepmom was considered a prime suspect. As part of the fact-checking process, Chief Investigative Reporter Eric Ross reached out to Jacqueline Kirby, the Media Relations Manager for El Paso County Sheriff's Office, along with their spokesperson for the office. He said, we will not be confirming any information that you have in your email. This is an active, ongoing investigation in the search for an 11-year-old boy. So what had happened during that time is a neighbor saw Letecia leave that morning in a truck with Gannon, but he did not see her return with Gannon. There's a lot of speculation on if she did return with Gannon that day or if not. The DA's office seems to believe that she did return with him and that for some reason the cameras just didn't pick him up or it was blocked where we couldn't see him get out or her get him out. But that's one of those things where I still wonder, like I'm waiting for trial to see how they're going to explain because I've watched the cam footage and I don't see, you clearly see when he goes to get in that day and leave with her, but I do not see where he gets out. Hi.com. Okay, so on January 30th of 2020, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office decided to upgrade the investigation to a missing and endangered child case. And right around that time, the whole entire area goes into search for Gannon. I mean, he had so many people out looking for him, and this came up. Everyone was praying for him. Everyone was in the community was changing their like outside light to a blue bulb for him. Everyone was hoping that he would see this and he would come home. And people were just combing the area searching for Gannon. The community really came together for this little boy. So on January 31st of 2020, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office publicly starts asking volunteers to register with their incident command to coordinate search areas. So everybody was already out searching in the community, but now the sheriff's office comes out and asks everyone to please come register, be a volunteer, and help. And there were thousands of people looking for this boy. Lane Polson said, I knew that morning she had done something to him. Yeah, I think we all got that sick feeling in our gut. So on February 1st of 2020, the children in Gannon's Lorson Ranch neighborhood come together to pray for Gannon's safe return, and that was televised. On February 2nd, Gannon's neighbor, Roderick Drayton, releases the surveillance video, which reportedly shows Gannon's stepmom, Letecia, leaving with Gannon and then returning home without him. The video contradicts the initial statements that Letecia reportedly made to the investigators. Okay, so he had already told them that he thought Letecia was the prime suspect, and he had reason why. But now the video is actually released for us all to see of why he did not believe that she came home with Gannon that day. Okay, so on February 3rd, investigators from the El Paso County Sheriff's Office and crime lab technicians were spotted searching evidence at the Stauch's family home. And we saw them take out a lot of items from the home on that day. On February 5th, Gannon's father and biological mother released an emotional video plea for information related to Gannon's disappearance. The video plea was shared by local outlets and the El Paso County Sheriff's Office. Okay, and that's Gannon's mother right there. And that woman has been through it. I mean, my heart goes out to her. She was attacked at first, and then, you know, that kind of pretty much came to a halt when her whole story was put out there. And then she's just been pulled through the ringer by this woman. I mean, we're 2 years now. Almost 3. So on February 28th, court records show investigators sought an arrest warrant for Letecia Stauch's, Gannon's stepmom. So everyone knew now that she was prime suspect. Now I don't know yet how to play video on here, but I can tell you guys, you can go look for this interview that she did with the news. She won't show her face. She's wearing sunglasses. She's talking erratically, and she's saying that she didn't do anything. She doesn't know why everyone's pointing the finger at her. She loved Gannon, and she talks about Gannon in the past tense, which, as we know here in true crime community, that is a huge red flag when someone's only been missing for a few days and you already start talking about them in the past tense. Well, this interview that she did is very important, and I'll get to that here in just a little bit. But she stands there and she talks to the news reporter, who did excellent on this case in the beginning. And like I said, she won't show her face. You can see the side of her face a little bit. And she just makes it all about her. Like, full narcissist comes out of this woman. And she's like, you know, I can't even search for him because people won't leave me alone. Everybody's pointing the finger at me. I didn't do anything. I loved him, you know. And it's just, it'll definitely get your spidey sense tingling. You just know right then and there. Hi, Daisy Joe. Hi, Frankie. So they put out the warrant for her. Okay, on March 2nd, they announced that they arrested Letecia. On March 5th, Letecia arrives at the El Paso County Jail and later that day appeared before a judge. Her attorney waived the advisement until first appearance hearing. On March 11th, Letecia was formally charged and has a status hearing scheduled for April 14th. Okay, now what this doesn't say is in between that, right after she does her interview with the news, she takes off and heads to, I believe it's South Carolina. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If it was North or South, but I think it was South Carolina. And she's getting out of there. She's trying to hightail it out of there. Okay. Now she claims that the reason why she was doing this is because Gannon's father, Al Stauch, kicked her out, told her she had to go. So she takes her daughter, whose name is Harley, who at the time I believe was 17, and then quickly turned 18 right after. She takes her daughter Harley and has some family come and help her, and they take off and they go to South Carolina. So she's actually arrested in that state, and they have to bring her back to Colorado. On the way coming back from Colorado, she tries to escape and attacks one of the officers. So she gets that charge put on her as well. Then when they do bring her back to Colorado and, you know, she's put into the jail because she had tried to attack this police officer, you know, they're all on high alert and everything. And she is trying to escape from that jail. And she's writing letters and she's telling a cellmate that's next to her that she's going to starve herself to fit through the bars to escape. So that doesn't help her case any at all either. Okay, so she then is just acting like a nutcase in jail. And she's talking to any media outlet that will listen to her, especially Crime Online. And she's telling them just all kinds of stories, right? She's saying that Gannon dropped a candle on the carpet and that candle burnt the carpet, and she didn't want Gannon's father Al to see that mess. So because Gannon would get in big trouble then. So she was trying to fix the situation for Gannon, and she drove to go and get supplies to try to fix the carpet. And then she saw this guy who was doing like home repairs and stuff like that. And she stopped and told him about it. And he said, yeah, he could fix it. And then she claims that he came to the house and trigger warning. She said that he came in and R'd her. And then eventually she blacked out, and that she came to and she saw him attacking Gannon, and she tried to get away, but he came after her again, R'd her again, and she blanked out again after that. At some point in time during this guy who she calls Eduardo was doing all of this stuff to her and Gannon, she says that Gannon's little sister came home from school and that she was able to run up the stairs and tell her to stay outside and ride her bike, don't come in the house. So this alleged person that was there to hurt her and her and Gannon allowed her to run up the stairs and tell Gannon's little sister to not come in the house. And somehow she was able to do that amongst, being AR'd and beat up and blacking out. So, none of it made any sense. No one could find this Aguardo guy. When Discovery stuff came out, you see that they have a alarm system that shows movement and stuff throughout the house and around the outside of the house. And there was a lot going on of going upstairs, downstairs, out the back door. Like, her story didn't make any sense for why all this activity was happening, and somebody was going up and downstairs and out the back door and, into Gannon's room and back up the stairs again. And so they knew that this was a complete lie. Later on, she changes the story to how Al had taken her, Gannon's father, Al, had taken her on a cruise and got into some trouble and owed a guy some money. And he wasn't paying the money, so the guy came to the house and took Gannon. So she's had, goodness, probably a dozen different stories, all the way to some guy that she just picked off of the internet that was most wanted in the area. Yeah. And there's some kind of like racism to it, because every person that she picked was someone of color. But anyways, it appears, allegedly, that what really happened was there was some kind of incident the night before Gannon's disappearance at the house. She was watching him and his little sister. There's a video out there, if you guys want to look it up, that is just heartbreaking, that she claims that she accidentally recorded. Okay. And apparently this candle is dropped onto the carpet. I don't even believe this. I think it's something that she set up, because I was so invested in this case that I tested what she said happened on my own carpet with a few different candles. We were actually, when this happened, we were actually in the process of getting rid of our carpet and putting hardwood floorings in. So I was able to do this, but she claims that Gannon was playing around being silly, knocked over this candle onto the carpet, and it set the carpet on fire. And he got cut up on his feet and stuff in the process. And she says that she got cut too. All right. And then that's what started this whole thing. Okay. Now, in this video, you hear her yelling at little Gannon. And he is already uncontrollably crying. And he's saying, "I didn't mean to. It was an accident." And she's like, "Are you sure?" And she's just drilling him. And she's saying stupid things like, "We're going to have to sell the couch to pay for this." And he's like, "Okay." And he can barely breathe. He's like coughing and he can barely breathe, and he just doesn't. For moms out there who have children who's ever gotten that upset, okay, that if they're crying really hard, that they will have a little struggle with breathing and stuff like that. But this just sounds different. This sounds like he is in a lot of pain and agony. And I think that she had already got mad at him, and lost it on him, and she had already started abusing him. And the candle, if that even comes into play at all, happened during her abusing him. And then she blames him for it happening. But she tries to say that this candle, burnt this big hole into the carpet, and there's pictures out there of it. Let me see really quick if I can find that photo for you guys, because I want you to see this. Every one of these that come up that I'm trying to save to show you guys are not savable. That's weird. Well, I can do a print screen of it and then put it up for you. Okay, let me crop it and save it, and I'll show you guys. Now there's a few different of these pictures. Okay. All right, let me add it up here. Okay. So the candle that she's saying was knocked over is white. Like I said, there's other shots of it, but I'm not going to sit here and take all the time to have the screen and then crop and then add every single one of these pictures. But the candle is white. The carpet is that basic beige carpet that they put in all rental property homes. Hi, MC Lick Pop. Now she's saying that this is a white candle knocked over onto the carpet. So since I was throwing out very similar carpet, I got several different white candles, Glade, Yankee Candle, all the way from, I tried to find the exact same one, and I think I did, but, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure it was just your basic Glade vanilla type candle. So none of my pictures came out looking like that. None of them. You guys can see there's some red, like brownish red, like color in that spill that we see there. So this really makes me believe that she was already abusing him. Thank you, Gypsy. That she was already abusing him and had already caused him to, I think what we're looking at here was either bloody vomit or a bloody stool. I think it's one or the other. And then she freaked and she poured the hot wax over it as an excuse, and so she could get this video that she claims she accidentally took with the stain in the photo that she took to send to Al to tell him that this incident happened that didn't happen. But this was her reasoning for getting rid of, proof of the abuse on Gannon, so she could cut this carpet out and replace it and get rid of it. So, anyways, I think she hurt him really bad that night. I think you can hear it in that video where she's yelling at him about this candle incident, and he just sounds miserable. In that video that she accidentally took, you can see Gannon's little sister just briefly. And she looks like she's scared. And I think she says something like, "What happened?" or whatever, but she's kind of ignored. I haven't watched the video in probably a year, y'all, because it gets me every time. It just, I want to bawl every single time hearing his little voice. I think that Gannon's little sister probably knows about the abuse that occurred that night. I don't think that she saw it because it looks like they had her downstairs in the room. But I'm sure she heard it. Right, Lane. That's all your rental property carpets, especially in nicer homes, all have a flame retardant on it. And so did the one that I used. And whenever I poured the hot candle wax onto the carpet, it just came it clear on it at first. And then as it dried, it was white. But it never actually burnt the carpet. Right. This is just my theory. I don't know. This is just my thoughts in the case. But so anyways, I think she abused him that night to the point where she caused him to, bleed out. And then she tried to cover that with the candle. And that was her reason to get rid of the carpet. And then I think that she put him to bed. And for some reason, I don't know why, she took these photos. But she did. None of these will it let me save. So I'm gonna have to do the same things. I want you guys to see this. Okay. It's coming, y'all. So she takes these two pictures of Gannon sleeping that night. These pictures have, just like the picture of Summer in the car ride home, these pictures have been gone over and put into Photoshop and messed around with time after time. The bedding that he has on him is not his normal bedding. Okay. He has a shark bed set, pillowcase, sheets, and blanket. But for some reason on this night, his shark comforter isn't there. And his dad notices this, that he's using this blanket that's normally kept in the closet. Another thing that his father noticed is that it looks like he has something up underneath the blanket that his feet is up on. In my opinion, it looks like one of those, like people who have acid reflux and stuff like that. They get one of those like memory foam wedges that they put behind them that kind of keeps them propped up while they're sleeping. It looks just like the shape of that to me. So I was concerned of why this is in his bed and why it looks like he's propped up like that. And then this picture here is not very clear, but in the clearer photo, he looks very pale. But that also could be because you see that the light is coming through his window and kind of shining on him some, so that could do that. So, but the two most red flag things is, why does he have something underneath the comforter with him like that, and why is the comforter not his normal comforter? But she takes these pictures of him that morning and she sends them to Al and says it's past 8 in the morning and he's still sleeping, because she tried to tell him that he wasn't going to school that day because his stomach wasn't feeling well. So she said he's staying home from school because his stomach isn't feeling well. Then she sends him this picture and says he's, still sleeping past his normal time that he sleeps, as to make Al think that he's still not feeling that good. But for someone who's not feeling well, soon after taking this photo, she gets him up and she puts him in the truck and they head off to town. And that's where the neighbor has the video of him getting into the vehicle. And guys, as he's getting into this truck, this normal, full of energy, bouncy little 11-year-old boy looks like he's struggling to walk out to the truck. He's carrying something in his hand and he drops it. And she looks like she is aggravated by the fact that he drops it. And she reaches down really quick and she picks it up. And then he struggles to get up into the truck. And this all brought his dad to tears, because he realized that something was wrong with his boy beyond just his stomach was aching him a little bit. He looked weak. So then she takes him all over town. And on my other computer, I actually have the map of like everywhere that she went that was picked up on, and all the places that she went. And she leaves him inside the truck as she goes into different places. At one point, she stops at like PetSmart, I believe it was, and she buys 2 small dog coats. On a couple of occasions, she sits outside of a walk-in clinic, like she actually considered taking him in to be checked out, but then decides not to. So she drives all over with him that day and comes back home, sends her daughter to the store to buy a bunch of cleaning products like baking soda, bleach, vinegar, white vinegar. It was a whole list of different types of cleaning products. And like I said, the neighbor never sees him get out the truck. So, I've never seen where he got out the truck, but the police seem to think that he did, because they believe that soon after arriving to the house, trigger warning, Letecia finished him off. They believe that she realized that at that point, damage had been done to him and she was going to be in big trouble. And she hurt him really bad in many ways. So her charges were first degree murder, victim under 12 by a person in position of trust, child abuse resulting in death, tampering with a deceased body, tampering with physical evidence. Okay. Apparently, guys, she brutally beat him. He had blunt force trauma. And she stabbed him. And she shot him. Total overkill. Now, remember I said, let's go back to that first interview she did where she stood there and she talked about him in the past tense and she talked about how wonderful of a boy he was and how she loved him and he loved her. Apparently, allegedly, the entire time, she had his body inside of a suitcase in a U-Haul truck right there next to where she was being interviewed. And when she took off to run, because she knew she was going to be arrested, to go to South Carolina, along the way, she stops right next to Pensacola, Florida, and she throws little Gannon's body off over a bridge. Now, it seems that she believed, because half of the year, most of the year, there's water flowing underneath that bridge. So I'm assuming that she believed that when she threw him in that side, that suitcase over that bridge, that the water would take it off somewhere and it would go to the ocean, and he would never be found. But she does it in the middle of the night and obviously really quick like, and doesn't even realize that there's no water. It's all dried up. This also brings into question her daughter, Harley, because it's kind of hard to believe that she wouldn't realize that something was up, that her little stepbrother goes missing, her mom's acting crazy, she's having Harley go and buy cleaning supplies for her, she's cleaning up the whole entire home, really fast like, and then she takes off and leaves, grabs Harley some things, gets a U-Haul, has family come, loads it up, takes off and leaves, and then goes out of her way to stop at Florida and drop off something on the side of the road. Now, Harley could have been sleeping. It was in the middle of the night. The U-Haul could have masked any smell from getting inside the cab of the truck. So I guess it's a possibility, but she had to think something was going on. I mean, I just can't see anyone being that clueless. So I guess, that she is on the witness list. So I guess we'll find out. Well, luckily, I think, because of a lot of prayers, Gannon was found pretty quick like. And it was just some workers, construction workers, or, roadside workers, whatever they're called, happened to come across it. And they said, oh, what is this? And opened it up and in horror saw and called the police. So police came out and they got a hold of it. And of course it matched his body, of course, matched description of this missing boy. And they called El Paso and they told them. And it came out that it could possibly be, but, you know, we were all waiting on autopsy. And then, of course, soon after, we found out that it was him that matched dental records. Girl should be sold. She has crazy eyes, so I guess she could have been in psychosis. I have family that is schizophrenic, and I've seen that look before. Yeah. Daisy Joe, that would be a traumatic discovery. I couldn't imagine either. And by that time, they're saying that it was pretty bad, because of clothes that was still on him, because of the shark like sheet thing that he was wrapped in that matched the bedding, and because of hair, they pretty much had an idea that it was him. But still, autopsy had to be done, and you know, it was ultimately the dental records that proved that it was him. And then his poor mom had to wait so long to be able, because of the investigation and everything, to be able to go down and get her son's body to have it buried. I mean, like I said, this family has just been put through it because of this woman. And she does look evil. And if I could sit here and upload all these photos of her sitting in court or waiting to be brought in, she has a smirk on her face all the time that I would just love to just smack right off of her. I mean, even if a slim chance that she is innocent, there's no need for all the smirking. And in this picture right here of her, if you look at that security officer right next to her, he is watching her like he's just waiting for her, like, make a move, I dare you. And he looks at her like that through this entire video. So she's claiming that she's crazy. You know, she's claiming that at some point in time in her marriage to Al, that she lost her mind. And she's saying that she does have a history of mental illness. The courts have been waiting and waiting and waiting to get that released and sent to them from South Carolina. So they have that. She does have a history of doing a lot of crazy things. She claimed a few times that she was AR'd. She claimed that she was sexually harassed at a job that she was at. And this woman, guys, she was a teacher. She worked with children. She also came after Al while he was still married to Gannon's mother. So she was a homewrecker, and a successful homewrecker, and took Al, you know, away, which, I mean, he's a man, he's grown, he can make a decision too, but still, Al left Gannon's and his little sister's mother for this woman. And then this woman has the audacity, living in a lovely home with a man who makes good money while she's not working because she can't seem to keep a job. Her history is she gets a job and then someone harasses her or someone R's her or whatever every time. And she, you know, quits her job. This last time, though, right before this occurred with Gannon, she claimed that her grandmother or grandfather, one or the other, had passed away, and it was found to be not true. And so the school actually let her go. So I think she was scared that she had to tell Al that she lost yet another job. She obviously was tired of being a stepmother because she was Googling on her computer these weird things. You guys, it's another thing you'd have to look up. It's just so weird. She's looking for another man who will take her in, you know, and allow her to take care of his kids and not have to work. She's looking up apartments, so she's obviously planning on leaving. She's looking for different military men. She seems like she wants military men, probably because they're not home all the time. She's looked up, should my stepchildren's mother send me a Valentine's card? Like, what? She really hated Gannon's mother and was out to hurt her any way she could. So she was definitely on the verge of snapping for whatever reason. I mean, the only thing that I can think of, because I've read everything and I've followed everything so closely, is that she just was unhappy with taking care of Al's children. She wanted a man with money who was rarely around so she could continue to go on her little vacations and her shopping sprees and spend up his money, but she didn't really want to have to take care of young children. And then it later came out that it is a possibility that Al was already seeing another woman and that she got wind of it. So between losing the job and knowing that Al was going to be mad at that, between him being gone and he was, you know, out on duty and she was there at the house with his 2 young children, and then between him allegedly seeing and talking to another woman, all of that caused her to snap. So she's trying to say that she was not right in her mind when she did this. So she's pretty much now admitting that she did do it, but that she doesn't remember it all because she snapped and she wasn't right in her head. She's had 3 competency evaluations. The first 2, she was found competent. And somehow or another, she was able to convince the judge to give her a 3rd one, claiming that she's not saying she's not competent now. She's saying that she wasn't during the time that things happened to Gannon. How do they prove that? I don't know. If someone could tell me, like, how do you go back in time and prove that somebody was insane during that time? And now they're not now, but they were 2 years ago. Like, I don't know how that even works. But they just recently got in the results of that. And she has court on the 25th of this month to tell us what the results of that 3rd competency test is. Country Girl said, I'm sorry, but whoever could do this should get death. She possibly will get death penalty because even though the state of Colorado does not have death penalty anymore now, they did have it when she committed this crime. And the DA is saying that they're going to go for it and that it could still happen. I'm curious to know what the report says too. I really am. I'm curious even more to know how they found out that she was out of her mind 2 years ago. Like, how do you take a test now and find out how you were 2 years ago? And especially from someone who is so conniving and so manipulative. I mean, guys, if you guys go watch some videos that have been done on this case, she's something else. She called herself Dr. Letecia Stauch for a while. She claims that she has this great education. And I mean, she was a teacher for a while, but she thinks that she's just like super smart. And she's did so many crazy things to prolong this trial from happening. She's something else for sure. So, oh yeah, she's hardly had to make any appearances to the court dates. She always finds a way to worm herself out of it. But in the couple that she has, where she was just on video, she was turning off and on the lights. She was shaking. She was scratching herself. She was really putting on a show, to the point where the judge actually laughs about it. He even says, she's putting on the best show I've ever seen. Like, he did not believe it at all. Real Gypsy Soul, can I ask a huge question that will spark conversation? What would happen to the mentally ill who commit murder, etc.? Is it our fault we were traumatized and now we have psychotic breaks? Hi, Jimmy. Real Gypsy Soul, I was actually talking about this with my husband the other day, because back in the day there was, sanitariums and stuff like that all over the place. And when people committed murders and they were obviously mentally ill, they were sent there and instead of prison, and they lived out their days, getting help that they needed and things like that. And if, a handful of doctors all agreed that that person's mental illness was cured or manageable, and that person would have never have committed a crime like that, if they had the proper medicines and therapy and all of that, then that person can actually go out and get out of there and live a normal life again. But in our day and time, we have, mental hospitals and stuff like that, where they don't really keep you for too long. And we were trying to look up, I think in our area, my husband and I, on if there were any facilities around here to take people like that to, or what do they do with them? We wanted to know. And we couldn't find anything around where we're at, like a live-in, sanitarium type place. So I asked my neighbor, who is a sheriff, and he said, they go to jail. They go to prison. We don't care. They'll get their medicine while they're in there. He's like, we don't care really. If they offer therapy and they give them medicine. So I'm assuming that they don't have those anymore, and they just put mentally ill people in with, other people who committed crimes, and they never really get any help. Like, I thought prison was supposed to be at one point like a rehabilitation facility to help people get on their feet, get an education, and be a member of their society without committing crimes to try to make it. But I don't really know if they do any of that anymore. It seems like you send people to prison now and they come out worse than they went in. All right, I've got just a few minutes. I have to wrap this up so I don't step on Mama T's toes. This is where Gannon rests today. His parents and community and friends and family and people online all donated to make this happen, and it is beautiful. And he will be forever missed by his family. Like I said, my heart goes out to his mother. And I am hoping and praying that despite whether she's, competent or shown not to be or whatever, that this moves forward and they are able to finally have her sent away, whatever, and be able to move on with their lives and it be done, because for 2 years of their life, they have just been dragged through the mud by this woman and have to relive this stuff over and over again. And I know this trial is just going to tear them up. So I know they'll be happy when it's over and done with. And I pray that justice is served as much as justice can be served. I mean, you can never bring Gannon back, but I hope she gets what she deserves. I hope the family can find some peace. And I know they'll see Gannon one day again, but what a mess, that poor precious baby boy. All right, guys, I appreciate you all coming in. Like I said, the next court date is August 25th. I will update everyone with how that goes, and hopefully we'll get a trial date. And whenever the trial starts, we're going to cover it and go over it. I love you all. Thank you for coming in. Like I said, Mama T is going to go live if you want to go over there and watch her. Jamie said, mental institute, don't have nobody no more. I have been admitted 20 times and I would get more trouble than I had. Yeah, everyone I know that's been sent to a mental institution never stays more than like 14 days. So, and Real Gypsy Soul said in the 70s, politicians shut them down for inhumane living conditions. And that's what I read too, which, I mean, I know some people were tortured in those places, but could they still have them and not have the torture? I mean, I feel like there needs to be an in-between place instead of everyone just being sent to prison, because they are definitely not rehabilitating anybody in there anymore. Okay, so thank you guys all for coming in. I love you so much. I'll see you on the YouTube streets. Prayers for everyone. Talk to you guys later. Bye.